Should I work 12 hours per day? Well, that's the question that we get a lot of times, Josh. My name is Desmond Soon, and this is Josh Spurrell, founder of Spurrell & Associates. Josh has actually been running businesses for over 23 years, and combined with my knowledge and experience as well too, we're about 56 years worth of business experience. We've grown businesses, we've lost businesses, we've almost gone bankrupt and almost gone into debt. On the other hand, we both run very, very successful businesses now as business consultants. Josh has a very successful CPA firm and also fractional CFO Services. But in this video series, our mission and purpose is to help you, the entrepreneur, to beat the odds. We all know about the statistics, the 96% that fail at business, and we really hope that you're watching this video because you don't want to be one of the 96. You want to be in that 4%. If that's correct, you're nodding your head and you're saying yes in the comments below. In this one here, Josh, I've got your manuscript, by the way, from your book, and there'll be a description for where you can get the book later on. Myth number 27, that you can work 9 to 5 is the myth that we normally hear. And then for me as the entrepreneur, asking you as my business consultant, my business coach, should I work 12 hours a day, Josh? What's your take on that?
Well, what I'm going to tell you,
yes.
If you ask 100 people, almost all of them will disagree with you. Okay. You have to realize only 4% of the population actually owns a business.
Right. Or has survived long enough to own a business that's survived, right?
Only 4% of the population actually owns a business, period.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Only, 1 in 5,000 people actually builds $1 million business, right?
Right. So not even the 4%. Now we're talking even smaller odds here.
It's minuscule percentage, right? And so almost everybody else in your life is likely an employee with an employee mindset. Right?
And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what they're destined to do, right?
That's fine. Yeah. And these days, there's too many socialists and communists running out there too, who also will tell you that we should all work 4 hours a day and everything should be paid for by the government, right? This is not how this works. This is not for the faint of heart, right? But this is not something that I feel like it's this way. I mean, this is just how it works, is that the average person who's the average CEO is going to work 63 hours a week. That's not a maybe number. That is the number.
That is the statistics.
That's the number, right? So if you want to be the business owner who wants to work 6 hours a day, the chances that you're going to succeed, it's not impossible. You're just diminishing your chances significantly, right? And so because we've talked about it before, you essentially have 2 jobs now, right? Unless you have a whole bunch of money to invest in this thing, you have 2 jobs. One to work in the business to pay the bills. One to work on the business to make that business grow and scale.
That's right. There's always 2 hats you got to wear all the time.
And so unless you have money for significant help to invest in that, you're going to have to wear both hats yourself. And ideally to grow a business, we want time and money, and ideally both, right? So you're going to have to do that. And so we talk about business owners and they want to work 9 to 5. It's not likely to work out for you, right?
And keep in mind, I also come from the internet marketing world, right? And I've worked with hundreds of 7-figure, 8-figure entrepreneurs. In fact, I have a gentleman who's offset here right now. He's one of our team members, and he was talking to me about this morning having a meeting with a 7-figure business owner who's made lots of money. But the main problem was he had done very well at sales and marketing, living the 4-hour work week, the laptop lifestyle, but he really didn't have a business. He was good at making money through his marketing strategies and his funnels and things like that, but he really did not run a business like a business owner. He was disorganized, he didn't have sales, HR, he didn't have full-time staff, he didn't have all those kind of things. So what happens to people like that, Josh? When it's not wrong, they made a lot of money, but that money is not going to last. And I think the name of the game here is, who's going to last the last.
That's right. We want to build a sustainable business. There's some businesses, they'll have that shot. They'll have that $1 million year, right? We see them all the time. They have $1 million a year.
Can they sustain it though for multiple years?
10, right? Because generally what happens at the tail end of that is they put more and more money into a failing, structure, and it just doesn't provide.
An algorithm changes, Facebook changes something, Google changes something, and then all of a sudden they tank. They're going out, right?
That in itself is a very rare anomaly. A lot of people will just never even get to that realm to begin with, right? So what we want to focus on is how do we build sustainable wealth, right? In order to do that, we have to take the time to work on our business. We have to build out the systems, checklists, and templates. And unless you have a significant investment, you're going to have to put in time to do that, right?
Right. That's the big resource that you have the most of.
That's
so
right.
We're all limited to 168 hours in a week.
168 hours. So we just talk about all the barriers that happen on working 9 to 5. And this is hard, right? Because a lot of business owners got into business because they were frustrated with the calendar.
Yeah, we were frustrated with a job and a cubicle and punch clocks and stuff like that.
There was a boss who said you were going to work on a Saturday. And that might have been the last straw before you decided to become a business owner.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Now you're working for an even worse boss. It's yourself. Yeah. And unless you're willing to take the time, to pay the price, you're never going to get that time freedom that you're looking for. Right? You're never going to build out a scalable business with a team, right? Yeah. Who can actually execute it. At the point that I'm in my business now, I know that if I stop showing up, that they would keep paying me, right?
Right.
That's just how it would work, right? There's systems in place for marketing, there's systems in place for sales, there's systems in place for production and quality control and hiring and the whole bit. It's systematized, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm still the guy who changes the systems, right?
Yeah.
But those systems would work without me. Right.
Yeah.
It's just how they progress
But it took you years to develop that. That didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen within the first year. Yeah.
It's years. And 9 to 5. You think about all of the restrictions that's going to put on you if you're only doing 9 to 5. 70% of all bricks and mortar sales occur after 6 p.m.
Right. And we do have several clients who do run brick and mortar businesses. And there was one lady in particular, I remember, and she changed, obviously, after taking your advice as a business consultant, but she used to close on weekends, or she used to close by 6 p.m.
That's right.
And she was missing out, leaving so much money on the table. And then when she changed her operating hours, she started bringing in more sales.
Yeah, and that's just a brick and mortar stuff. But there's nothing to suggest that changes if you're a contractor, right?
Right.
You're a contractor pursuing high net worth clients, and you want to do work on their house. Well, guess what? They don't want to take off work at 2 o'clock to come and talk to you, right?
Right.
They're going to do business with someone who's a little more convenient, and will meet them after supper on a Wednesday.
Right. Real estate agents, they meet with people in the evenings. They meet with them on weekends.
That's right. Then we start talking about where do you get time, uninterrupted time, that's not interrupted by your suppliers and your employees. That tends to be in the morning before anyone else starts. So
5 a.m., 6 a.m.
Now you're starting to see it. Now we started at 6 and we're finishing after 6, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So should I work 12 hours a day? Maybe the question isn't, should you? The question might be, can you afford not to? Right. Is working 12 hours a day tough? It's hard.
It's very tough. Yeah.
It's hard working 12 hours a day. No one's gonna argue that it's not hard, and that's why entrepreneurship isn't right for everybody, right? But what else is hard is bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Bankruptcy is hard.
Yeah. Divorce happens from bankruptcies. Yeah, we see it all the time.
Divorce from failed businesses.
Yeah.
Mental illness from failed businesses. That's actually hard too. So it's the old pick your hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's too many people out there thinking that you can work 6 hours a week and it'll just be a little bit less, right?
Yeah.
You could just save a little bit more. It's like, no, if you work a little bit less, it's probably going to zero.
Right.
An extreme zero, right? You're probably polishing your resume and looking for another job, right?
Yeah.
So the question is, should I work 9 to 5? The question is, am I prepared to go bankrupt? Right. It's really harsh advice that people need to hear.
And I think a lot of people come into the entrepreneurial world, Josh, trying to do the minimums. What Josh is trying to say here is, it's already tough enough to be a business owner to beat the odds. And if you're trying to do the bare minimums, it's not that it's impossible, but is it sustainable? Right? Success leaves clues. So, Josh is very pedantic. He's very pragmatic. Coming from a CPA background, a CFO, he just looks at the numbers and the stats. And what he's saying is, he looks at the numbers and stats, and success leaves clues. The people who are successful, they follow these steps. So, if you're willing to put in the effort, the reward is also on the uptick side. Mm-hmm. The rewards are phenomenal. The travels, the time, the things that you can do, the philanthropic stuff you can do when you're successful. They're phenomenal. They're life-changing significance in your life. And Josh, you're not a workaholic. You and I have a really good. I've been around mentors who are very, very, fanatical at working, and there's all kinds of. It's very controversial. People argue this, but I do like what you actually preach, which is the 6 days. Work at the very minimum. Yes. Work 6 days a week. That's where that 63 hours comes from. Yeah. 6 days a week, and then you take 1 day off. Yeah. Right? And that gives you thinking time. It gives you time to reflect on the business. It also gives you family time. It gives you that work-life balance. Can you talk a bit about that?
I mean, I'm a big proponent of the 6-day work week. I've interacted with thousands of entrepreneurs at this point in time, and it's my perception that the ones who say that they're working 7 days, they're, the business is running them. They're not really running the business, right?
Yeah.
If they can't find 1 day a week. Now, if you're in retail, that day off probably shouldn't be a Sunday. It probably should be another day of the week, right?
Maybe a Monday or something.
And maybe a Monday or a slow day, but that day, it does help you reflect. It does help you reset. And as I progress as an entrepreneur, I actually find that I don't want to work shorter days.
Mm-hmm.
I want to work less number of days, right?
Right, okay.
That tends to be the break, because once you get into the groove, for a lot of people, working 8 hours is unthinkable, right?
Yeah.
And then I have lots of days where I'm up at 5. My first meeting is starting at 6, and my last meeting is ending at 7 p.m.
Our
right?
first meeting on Mondays is at 5 a.m. my
5
time.
Pacific and
6 your time.
6 my time, right?
Yeah.
And my last meeting on that day goes to 7, right? Now that I've gotten to a certain place, I would actually prefer to continue to work those crazy hours and take more days off.
And you do actually have a year in advance, 2 years in advance, your vacations are scheduled.
Planned out.
And not just you, but you've also set an example for your team members and your staff. They see you doing it, and they know that they can also take vacations as well.
That's right.
Right.
And I think that's what actually adds to your life. There's so many cool things that you can do, and you can pursue on a vacation, where as opposed to if you just come home 2 hours earlier, you're probably still stuck in that same mindset. You're somewhat slightly distracted, which is why we go back to that 6-day work week where you have that full reset day, that I think it actually increases your decision-making performance, right?
Okay. Josh, you always, in several of your talks, even at your Business Bootcamp, you talk about this. By the way, if you're interested in actually meeting Josh in person, we do conduct Business Bootcamps live in person. We'll put some information in the description below. You can, if you're willing to fly out to Alberta, you want to come out to Edmonton, you can meet Josh in person, or probably in the future, we may do some virtual ones. But do let us know if you're interested in the comments below, and someone will reach out to you and give you some details as well too. But Josh, you always talk about, we're dads as well too, and I want to address that as well too. As entrepreneurs, many times you might be a mom, a dad, a parent, basically. And one of the things you talk about waking up, we have another video, by the way, up here, which we'll focus on as well, where we talk about, the hours. Should be a morning person going to work and stuff like that, and you got kids. How do you manage that? What is your take on that, working earlier in the morning?
Should I work 12 hours a day? You should, but it better start early if you have a family.
Right.
It's a surefire way for, failure within your family life. If you're going to try to work 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., you got small kids, they're already in bed by the time you're off. Right?
Correct, yeah.
Even just getting off at 7, you have that 2 hours with them before bedtime. You have 2 quality hours with your kids. It's actually a pretty good time.
Yes.
It's not 2 hours. Desmond, I don't own a computer at my house.
Yes.
I don't have an email. I'm not on the computer. So maybe you get home at 5, some people, but they're distracted back and forth on emails for those 4 hours they're sitting there.
Yeah.
They're not actually
They're
there.
not present. They're not present for their kids. Yeah. They're not present for their spouse.
2 hours present in the evening. It's not a lot, but you can make pretty good use of it if you use it effectively, right?
Correct.
And then you have a full day off every week, and then on top of that, you have actually vacations scheduled, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's the path for success. That's going to increase the odds of success, and it's something that you can maintain, right?
Right.
I hear a lot of people talking about, I work 100 hours or I work 80 hours a week. I was like, well, I've been working 80 hours a week for a decade, and this is how I actually do it, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. It's a marathon, not a race, right?
Yeah.
Could I take meetings on Sunday? I could, but I probably wouldn't be that focused Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday if I did
so you're paying a price that's actually, and you're almost kind of borrowing. It's almost like that payday loans that you talk about.
Yeah.
You may work on that Sunday, but it's like a payday loans that is just compounding, because you're losing your performance on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you keep doing that over and over again. You're not really getting that rest. I think just to wrap it up there, Josh, you always tell me about with the kids. I wake up early. We're up at 4 or 5. We're on meetings, and my kids are asleep at that time. So I get probably more work done between my 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. than most people get done in a whole day of work or a whole week of work. And then we get productive and we do income producing activities. And then I still spend time with my kids and my wife and our families on that Sunday and also on after work. So Josh, any action items very quickly for the business owners watching this? What should they do when they're asking themselves, should I work 12 hours per day?
Set up your calendar.
Yep.
Set up your calendar. It's going to look ugly. Okay. It's not going to be 40 hours, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be 60 hours plus. The minimum barrier to entry that I've seen for entrepreneurship is 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. That's the minimum barrier. You're going to have to pay that price for a decade. So set it up. Put all the things you need to do on that calendar, but put that rest time.
Okay.
Put those.
Yeah, exercise, take care of your health, because guess what? You're the captain of the ship. If you get disabled because you're exhausted, you're burnt out, you get disabled in some way, shape, or form, can't work. Your business is going to go down. So make sure you block out that time for health. Make sure you block out that time for mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, whatever health you need there, family health, and do that, right, Josh? And if you found this video helpful, you want to find out more questions, do comment in the comments below. Let us know. I'll get Josh to reply to your questions, or we'll pin your question if it's an awesome question, and we'll see you in the next video.